Nothing to it.
Welcome back to Nothing Toolet. I'm your host, the Toolet Guy, and we're back for yet another laminate cutting episode. If you haven't already seen the previous ones, we've done the 45-degree laminate cut and we've done the 90-degree laminate cut. But next on our list is cutting a hole for your kitchen sink. Using this scrap piece of countertop from previous episodes, I'm going to demonstrate how to cut out the hole for your countertop. If you've already purchased a sink and it already has a template, you'll be able to tape that on and trace out the outline that you're going to need for cutting your hole. As I am using this scrap piece, I'm simply just going to put a line of tape here and demonstrate how to cut this hole. For this first segment, you're going to need your painter's tape, your marker, a measuring tape, and a straight edge. To begin everything, you're going to want to measure off your back wall about 3.5 to 4 inches. This allows you to give space for the holes that you need to be drilled for your sink's fixtures and taps. So I've got my square made. What I'm going to do for my purposes is I'm going to use the inside circle dimension of my painter's tape to mark the corners of my sink. I'm going to trace those in now and put painter's tape on the countertop where I need so as to not mark it with my writing utensil, so that all the markings are on the tape for cutting purposes. Once you have your outline marked out, you're ready to begin the cutting process. The cutting process is going to be done with your jigsaw. In order to get the jigsaw into your countertop for cutting, you're going to need to drill holes. You're going to use a drill bit, and you're going to drill into the 4 corners as close to the corner of the circular edge that you've created with your template. Simply drill through all the way. You also have to keep in mind that the drill has to be at least as thick as your blade. That way this blade will fit into the hole that you're about to start cutting with. Once you have the holes made, you can put your saw into the holes and start cutting. The holes in the corners will allow you enough space to curve your jigsaw as you go all around. Prior to doing any drilling or cutting, what you're going to want to do is put your laminate countertop on a surface that can be cut on. What I mean by this is you don't want to just put it down on top of your workbench or a table of some sort, because when you drill or cut, you're going to be cutting into another surface underneath. What I've done is I've used sawhorses. That allows for the area underneath to be clear. I can clamp my countertop to each side, allowing it to be safely cut without damaging anything else. The next part of this process is drilling your holes. You're going to take your drill, which we've measured against our jigsaw blade. I'm going to put it in the corner. I'll show you a close-up of that in a minute, of what all 4 corners look like once we're done drilling. So in the corners, you'll see that everything has been drilled. You can see where it is by the edge of the circle. That's going to be the line we're going to follow with our cutting blade. But this blade fits in there so that now we can begin our cut and start going all the way around. Without further ado, let's get to the cutting. You'll notice there wasn't enough room to come around and make this turn because the back end of the guide, or sorry, the back end of your shoe on your jigsaw was hitting against this wall. So you're able to just simply come out, put it in another hole, and work your way back around. Continuing forward, I'd like to show you another trick. Is once you have your cut mostly done, I like to put a couple of boards underneath to clamp this down, or sorry, to clamp the boards down so that this piece doesn't just fall through. Using my clamps, I'll simply put them on in a way that they're no longer going to interfere with the cut here. Looking through the holes, make sure that your board isn't going through where you need to cut still. Once these boards are clamped underneath, it will prevent this piece from falling through and breaking off, possibly damaging the good surface of your laminate countertop. Once you're ready to go, continue cutting until complete. You can then take off one of your clamps, remove a board, push up, and remove your countertop piece. Remove your other clamps. Clear away some of the dust that we have here. I'm going to peel the tape. Once everything is removed, you'll be left with your cutout for your sink Little bonus segment for our viewers. We're going to put more tape down in behind that space where we said our tap holes are going to be. So you mark out where your dots are going to be. We're going to use a hole saw to cut these holes out. Now, as you saw from the beginning of the episode, this whole thing is custom made, but you may have a template. It's good for single sinks, double sinks. Your template for taps, you might have 2 sets of taps. What we're going to do is lay it down, again, in a position where we can go through our table without drilling into anything that we don't want to. Second, you're going to line up where this drill is going to go. The reason I went nice and slow with this process is because I've too many times been applying too much pressure while drilling and end up pinching my fingers in between the surface of whatever I'm drilling and the drill that I'm holding. So it's just another precaution to take while you're doing this. Take your time, hold it steady, and just take your time going through the workpiece. If when you cut through you find that your piece is stuck inside, sometimes you can simply wiggle it out, but be careful because this is going to be super hot, and if you can't get it out just by wiggling it out slightly, you may just have to wait for this to cool down a bit before removing that little piece. Once again, we can remove our painter's tape. Leaving us with the 2 tap holes for a sink fixture. The reason I went through the top down is because you'll notice on this piece that was cut, see how this is splintered and broken? That will be on your bottom side now. You see these little rough edges from a hole saw cut. If you go through from this side, you'll end up with all these splintered edges on your laminate side. And in case that's showing when your fixtures are installed, the last thing you want is to see damage on your workpiece. Most likely this will be covered up, but just in case, you want it to look good. A little trick that I've learned when cutting holes for my sinks is before removing your painter's tape, do a test fit with your sink. If the sink doesn't fit and it wedges in a little spot, try to find like a little high point that might be in like your corners, or maybe you've went a little off track when you were cutting and you didn't stay completely on the line that you had for your template. It's easy to just leave that tape on, use a power sander or a file and get rid of those edges. Once you've got it fitting in nicely, then remove all that tape. This concludes today's episode of cutting a hole for your sink in a laminate countertop. I hope you enjoyed watching today, and remember, there's nothing to it.